Yeah, myself D. Veerabhadra Rao from Samhita.
I am Ramesh from Mahita.
So you're on mute.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm
Hello.
Abhi here,
Hi.
representing Peacemakers organization from Bangalore.
I am good from Amreli district, Gujarat.
Hi. Thank you for joining.
This is Mike Austin from IJM Chennai.
Hi, Mike Austin.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Father Ignatius from Para, Raulapalam, Andhra Pradesh.
Thank you, Father, for joining.
Hello, Red Rope team, and this is Dr. Devasutham from International Justice Mission, Chennai. And thank you, Rani sir, for the invite.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Good evening, friends. This is Manikanta from Punganur, Andhra Pradesh. So I'm a learning and volunteering coach.
Hi, Manikanta. Nice to meet you. Okay, thank you everyone once again for joining today's session. Our today's session is Leave No One Behind. And the topics that we're going to cover or we're encouraging each one of you to share is on, first question is strategies in protecting children and women from violence, implementing a robust mechanism of prevention. And the second question is, how do we include state system and civil society in our strategy? And this forum is open for your presentation for 5 to 7 minutes. So I would like to know if Srinivas Rao is on the call. Okay, looks like he has not joined yet. So may I request K. Venkataramanaya, CEO, Visvashanti Educational Institute, to make the first presentation. Sir, your video is not on. Ramanai Garu, we can't hear you or see you. Yes, sir. You can start the presentation. Okay. Looks like he's having some issues. So can I request Manikanta Kamatam, Gurukulam 360 Degrees Learning School representation to start the first presentation, please?
Yeah.
Yes, Manikanta, your video is not on, and I've given you access to share the screen.
Yes, yes, yes.
You're on mute now.
I'm just trying to open my document actually.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening, Mr. C. Srinivas Rao speaking.
Hi, sir. Did you? Looks like you've just joined, right?
Yeah.
Are you ready to make the presentation, or Manikanta can do first and then you can do second?
Okay.
Manikanta, are you ready?
Actually, I'm trying to present it through my mobile phone, so
mobile.
I'm not seeing this.
Mobile doesn't work.
No, actually, I can see the options where I can open the document. Yeah. Meanwhile, I can just request other.
Okay. Sir, can you make the presentation first in that case? Srinivas Garu?
Yeah.
Yeah. I, Srinivas Rao, is the director of Chaitanya Jyoti Welfare Society. So thank you for joining. Over to you to make the first presentation.
Good evening to all of our participants. I am Srinivas Rao from Nellore, representing Chaitanya Jyoti Welfare Society. We are working on the for women rights and child rights. Of course, regarding in the wake of COVID-19, the pandemic, it is the unexpected problems are surrounded to women, particularly women and children, particularly vulnerable groups, particularly social excluded sections, and also migrated sections. Can I speak in Telugu, madam? No problem. Okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
ఓకే ప్రత్యేకించి ఈరోజు మనకి ఈ కోవిడ్ నేపథ్యంలో ఉన్నటువంటి సమస్యలు మహిళలకి ఉమెన్కి ఎక్కువ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చింది. ఆ ఉమెన్ కూడా ఎవరైతే సమాజంలో అట్టడుగు వర్గాలుగా ఉన్నారో, సోషల్ ఎక్స్క్లూడెడ్ సెక్షన్స్ గా ఉన్నారో వాళ్ళకి రెండోది ఈ చైల్డ్ లేబరు, లేబర్ కూడాను సమాజంలో తెలియనటువంటి ఒక మరి బర్డన్ అనేటువంటిది, మరి ఓవర్ బర్డన్ అనేటువంటిది పడింది. ఈ ఓవర్ బర్డన్ వలన మరి ఉమెన్ మీద మరి ఫ్యామిలీ లీడ్ ఎట్లా చేయాలనేది ఒక ప్రాబ్లము. రెండో ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చేమో మరి డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కూడా ఎక్కువైంది. ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్, చైల్డ్ వైలెన్స్ కూడాను ఇందులో ఏంటంటే గర్ల్ చిల్డ్రన్ ట్రాఫికింగ్ అనేటువంటిది కూడా చాప కింద నీరులాగా ఉంది. సో ఈ మరి ఇష్యూస్ అనేటువంటి రకంగా ఉన్నాయి. ఈ సిచ్యువేషన్స్ లో ఆఫీసర్స్, ముఖ్యంగా మరి లైన్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్స్ వాళ్ళు ఏదో రీహాబిలిటేషన్, మరి కరోనా అంటే కోవిడ్ రీహాబిలిటేషన్ అనే పేరుతోటి ఎస్కేప్ అవుతున్నారు తప్ప ఉమెన్ సంబంధించినటువంటి మరి బర్డన్ అనేటువంటిది సరిగ్గా అడ్రస్ చేయడం లేదు. సో మరి ఈ సమస్యలన్నీ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. మరి అఫ్ కోర్స్ నా దృష్టి గారు చెప్పారు. మరి నేనైతే దీనికి ఒక ప్రిపరేషన్ అనేటువంటిది మరి సరిగ్గా చేసుకోలేదు. ఇది మరి దీస్ ఆర్ ద అంటే జనరల్ ఒపీనియన్స్ అండ్ ఫైండింగ్ మై సెల్ఫ్ మేడం. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Venkat Ramanai Garu, are you ready? Would you be able to make the presentation? Okay, I would like to translate what Srinivas Rao Garu shared. He mentioned that there has been a lot of increase in domestic violence and violence against children in rural areas. So what he was suggesting is if all of us, along with the government, if all of us can collaborate and come up with strategies on how we can eradicate such happening or bring awareness or empower the women in battling these issues, that's what he has mentioned. That will be a good way out in overcoming this struggle or violence against women and children. Thank you, sir, for those insights. I'm not sure what's with Venkat Ramanai Garu, why is he not able to present? But meanwhile, I'm putting up the presentation for Manikanta. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Sure. Manikanta, you can start the presentation.
Good evening, friends. So this is Manikanta. So I have mentioned you. I am from Punganur, Chittoor district, Andhra Pradesh. So I've been into corporate for more than 15 years, and now I moved to full-time volunteering. So I'm a learning and volunteering coach. So here I would like to share my views. So recently I got a request from our Red Rope team that I can share a couple of things, especially regarding to the women and children's safety in India. So to start with, I would like to start with initial few statistics which are there in India. So can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So this is the actual data which talks about current children's safety in India. So if you go with the first thing, so there are five times increased for the past 10 years with respect to the child crimes, especially the child sexual abuse or whatever it might be. So it been vastly increased. And the second thing is the child labor. So if you can see, there are more than 10.13 million child laborers are there in between the age of 5 to 14. And if you can see the third main area, child trafficking. So believe me or not, on records, there are daily 150 children who are getting trafficked across India, but we can expect even more with respect to the off-record report also. And with respect to the child marriages, I'm taking only the 4 major areas which purely focus on the child safety. That is the reason I mentioned only these 4 things. When you go to the child marriages, right now we have 45 lakh girls who are below 15 years, and this data will show even there are 70% of the girls who have the 2 children as per the census in 2011. So these are kind of a pain points for the things, and I would like to go through the next slide. Can you move forward, please? So we may think that after looking at all these numbers, so everybody will have a thought that don't we have any strong any laws or policies or acts against these things? And definitely every nation has some policies and acts, and even United Nations talks about the same thing. UNICEF has playing a vital role on this, and according to their guidelines, we have our own national child protection policy, which includes 7 acts. So these are all the 7 acts which we are going to follow across the nation. And the first thing is the Juvenile Justice Act, so which talks purely about care and protection of the children. And we have a Protection of Child from the Sexual Offense Act 2012, and we have Preconception Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, and Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act, Protection of Child Marriages Act, and Child Labor. So these are all the major acts which are already available, and most of the people are. The thing is that we require an awareness. This is the major thing which lacks in our community, and this is the reason why we need to work mainly, especially the NGOs has to work on this thing. So that is where I have pointed out in the next slide, so especially the call to action, what we need to do as part of various NGOs. So here I would like to quote our the first Nobel laureate from our country, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. He talks the free nation, the free world of kids. So that is what he spoke about, and that is what even I wanted to quote over here, because where the mind is without fear, where the kids, they are the ones who has the unconditional love and unconditional talents. So to make them grow healthy and free, so these are all the basic things that they should have. I can say these are all their own rights: freedom of thought, freedom of fear, freedom of choice, and right to make the decisions, freedom of speech, ownership over one's body. So like everyone have our own rights, even children should have all these rights. This is what I feel. So we should grow them like this. And going to the next thing, to make them more stronger. So these 3 things plays crucial role. So the first thing, everyone should aware of Childline. We all know that Child Helpline 1098. So we should create an awareness. Everyone should know what it is. And the second thing is police department. So since childhood, we all grow up like the police is kind of a scary person. So even now we get scared when we look at the police. It's not like that. They are friendly. So we should bring up such culture. And third thing, child welfare committee. So everyone is aware of the police department, and there is a less awareness about the child welfare committee, especially in the society. So we need to break this barrier and ensure that everyone is aware of all these three departments, which is very, very crucial for the child safety. Going to the women's safety and protection. So I have created these things into three different areas. So based on the location or environment. So the three areas are, first is safety in family, second thing is safety in work environment, and third thing, safety in the society. So if you can see, the women are facing different issues in these three areas. If you can see in family, the basic thing is the dowry and domestic violence. If you see in work environment, it's a sexual harassment. And if you can see in society, it's a trafficking, rape, or indecent representation. So can we move on to the next slide, please? To overcome these things, I have come out with these 4 points where we need a growth and where we need to reduce the things. So to make them happy and healthy, we should focus on this family and social life, and we should improvise the work environment. At the same time, to bring these 2 things, what are the things which we need to reduce is the trafficking and acid attacks in the society, as well as the dowry and domestic violence in the homes. So these are the 2 things which we need to focus to reduce and to improve their happy and healthy life. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
Go ahead.
So here I would like to suggest the action plan for the home and society for every woman. So I have a 4-step process where we can start with creating awareness. So we can use our self-help groups, or we can use our different modes of the teams, use the local clubs, or even through the ASHA workers, and we can create an awareness, and even we can use the various tools of media, so print and paper media, social media, and then we can create women empowerment sessions and help them to get trained in the defense training sessions, which are very, very essential, and it should build the confidence. That is what we need to make themselves sustainable. And third thing is the training sessions. They should go the regular training sessions, even through the polices or women protection teams, or safety through SHGs or self-help groups, regular things. And fourth things, they should have a regular workshops. It's not kind of a one-time kind of a thing. They should have follow-up sessions and workshops for the influences, like how the acid attack victims came forward and they started having their own startups, and they are motivating the people. So these kind of things actually motivates and inspires others to take up a lot of things. So can we move on to the next slide, please? And when we come to the work environment, this is the action plan which I have suggested. And since I've been into the corporate sector, based on my own experience, I have come out with this plan. And again, it goes with the same thing. So the first thing is creating an awareness among all the associates, like an employees, both male and female associates, how to respect the women associates. And we need to have a clear-cut code of conduct, what to follow and what not to follow, and it should have a written consent from everyone. So everyone are supposed to sign it before getting into job for any work thing, and every woman should have the self-defense training as part of their regular programs or skill development academic program. And the fourth thing, there should be a mandatory women empowerment sessions for everybody, and again, everyone should have the influence talks. This is the action plan which I can suggest, a strategy kind of a thing for both home, society, and the workplace. So can you move on to the next slide? It's time for Q&A. So I'd be more happy to take up any questions and answers from any of you. Thank you so much. If you don't have any other questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Anybody wants to have any questions for Manikanta? I think they're good. Thank you so much, Manikanta. Those are really good insights for us to think about. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
Shivas
opportunity.
Garu has a question. Sir, you're on mute.
I have one question, madam.
Yeah.
Regarding any atrocity occurred, particularly regarding women and children, it may be talking case, it may be in that child labor case, it may be a bonded child labor case, the migrated child labor case. What is the role of line departments? What is the convergence part? Particularly in the time of the COVID time. We think and also we see lack of coordination. So, what is the view of Mr. Manikantaka? Yeah.
Okay. Manikantha, did you understand the question?
So can you just repeat the thing? Is that there was some
Okay. Sir is asking what is the convergence on how both the government and the people can, or the NGOs can work in terms of these dealing with these issues. If you have any suggestions.
Yeah, that is what I. Yes, sir. So the thing is that always we feel. Yes. So always the thing is that we cannot blame either a government or a community. So the only the lack of point over here is the convergence, as you rightly pointed out, the convergence between the people. This is the place where the police department and the SHGs and the groups, the local groups, which needs to play crucial roles. There should be someone who should take the leadership among these groups. So, and moreover, I say that the local NGOs which are purely working on women empowerment or child protection, so they should play a crucial role on these things to collaborate the people with the government, because the local people, they will be having a less knowledge about these policies and acts, all these things. They cannot directly go and reach to the people whom they need a support, actually helping hand. This is the place where the change makers or an NGOs plays a crucial role to connect these people. Even the thing is that while preparing for this PPT, these are a matter of 9 slides, but to make these 9 slides, I have to do a lot of research, because I need to go through an Indian constitution and I need to check through, because I know I told the same thing. I can share my points with my own experience, but when I gone through the questions, I just thought that I should give a proper strategy before, rather than sharing my own perception, because there is a difference between my own perception and actual existing things. That is the reason, if you can see my slides, I have mentioned the sources and the actual constitution, laws and acts and policies, because that gives more value. Unless a people like a change maker or an NGO who brought these points and bring it to the local community, other people and the SHGs. Even after doing this PPC, I got an idea that why don't I go and speak with the SHGs and tell them these are all the laws. This is how you can reach out to the police. This is how, if you face an issues, you can make the thing, so that we ourselves can make a change maker. We should influence the people. It doesn't mean that women protection has to be done by the women. Either the child protection has to be done by only the women. Even the male can do a lot of things. We know about the Padman. So a guy who did a lot of, he created history in India. So that is how. So everyone has its right, and especially the change agents. We ourselves has a strong power where we can do this thing, and definitely we all can make a difference by bringing this synergy. And I'm sure a session kind of these things can synergize our thoughts, and we can start this change. Actually, that's what I strongly believe. Our Mahatma says, be the change you want to see. Rather than we can say someone else, let we our be the thing.
Okay, sir. One more thing. One live example very recently. For instance, in Nellore district, in one government junior college, 10 days before, one girl's child labor was engaged in the school mopping. In the context of the spot valuation in front of the police constables by college management, of course. By publishing of this incident, so many NGOs are kept silent. The only human rights activists came only focus the issue, and finally focus the issue in the media, print media, and also in the electronic media. Consequently, our police department they sensitized. Our DGP Garu, Mr. Gautam Savang, issued a statement on the same day. అంటే ఎందుకంటున్నానంటే ఇట్లాంటి ఇష్యూస్ జరిగినప్పుడు అవర్ ఎన్జిఓస్ ఆర్ రిమైనింగ్ యాజ్ అంటే చార్టబుల్ ఎన్జిఓస్, అంటే టు డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ ది food or anything like that. A few NGOs per district, 2 or 3 NGOs only, they raised the question on the rights issue and a rights based issue. So we have to sensitize the so-called the line departments, the particularly in that women and child welfare department, child line people, CWC people, police constables, so particularly AGPU is there, special zonal police units are so there, but they only remain on the namesake only, sir. So we have the enough responsibilities to sensitize them like anything. So it is the one type of the important historical responsibilities on our shoulders. Why? Because I am the state convener of the CACL, campaign against child labor of the AP state. We take this issue, or particularly Atmaguru in that girl child labor issue. There are so many threats also. Like that in the Visakhapatnam, the Vizag, the chemical gas disaster is there. The impact on the women and children also there. Like this important issues, but our NGOs are remaining as the spectators, sir. So these are the issues we have to focus. And of course, there is a like this type of the debates and also a PPT presentations. But we have to continue. Very much thankful to Christy madam, all of you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good to know about that and appreciate all your work, sir. And only thing I suggest all of you is have a legal advisor. This is really very best thing for you people, because every time being an NGO sector, we will be crushed everywhere. So because people will think that these guys cannot be doing this, because when we doesn't have a legal advisor, especially, even though it's not an official thing, but everything we need to go through the legal things, and everywhere we will be having either positive influence or negative influence. We should accept this because we are into the society. So that is the only suggestion which I can. Yeah. Thank you. So,
thank you so much. Thank you, sir, for those comments and suggestions. I want to check if Lakshman Rao from Varadi are you on the call? Lakshman Rao Garu, are you on the call? Okay. Okay, I want to check if Moses Kagita, if from Home of Hope, are you on the call? Okay. Okay, now may I request Suresh Daniel, Project Coordinator of Oasis India, who is currently working in Punganur, to share his thoughts and insights on this issue.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Redro, for this time which you have given to all of us to think and also discuss on this important theme. Actually, this is a need of the hour. I would like to share some of the thoughts which we have seen in the light of COVID-19 these days in the rural setup. So Oasis India, it's basically works for the betterment of women and children in India. So one of the things which we especially in these days, as I said in the beginning, in the light of COVID-19. In the rural area, we feel the reality is the children and women doesn't have access for the mobiles or the digital things. So that is an eye opener for us as a team, as we are doing some of the relief work among children and for the our beneficiaries. So reaching them always, even though they are our beneficiaries, we keep in touch with them. Unless we go to their home, reaching them is becoming a difficult. So in this light, we had a discussion like with the domestic violence and the child abuse, when the children or a woman not able to access to the phone, how in these situations those things can even come into light. So that is a real challenges which most of the children are facing. I think one of the challenge for us is how to educate children to use mobiles, or how if they go through any abuse or even for the domestic violence for women. One of the challenges, we have to educate them. We are thinking like, as I said, it is an eye opener for our team. We were in an assumption of like every woman in the rural setup knows how to use a mobile, how to know operate, but it is not true. It is not at all true. So I think if when in our discussion we thought it is a kind of a digital poverty people live in, which is a new challenge for us. If people are not able to access to mobile these days with the COVID challenges, I think they are cut off from the world. And this is one of the issue. And also, we have to create a space for them to discuss. Before COVID, we had access. People used to come to gather in the groups and discuss. And even NGOs had a time to talk to people. There were times which opened, a way for them to share the problems which they are going through in the family, either children or women. But now, with the restrictions of the gatherings, we are not able to listen their voice or listen to their struggles. So I think we should think something around reaching the families. Again, reaching the families, like how to reach them in their families, in their house, and sit and discuss about their issues. And it is a challenge how far they will be able to open up and share, because these are all very sensitive issues, which is if the child is going through an abuse in the family, how they will be able to talk. These are the real challenges. And we as a team, we were discussing on the same lines. And we don't have answers, but I thought like this platform will really help us to discuss on these things and share if any thoughts which can really help in this matters. And developing a robust mechanism, like one of the best thing is like which we in our place in Punganur, is in our catchment areas, what we usually had is change agents teams. Every village had a change agents. So change agents are like beneficiaries who are proactive and interested in the community development, and interested in volunteering and interested in seeing a transformation within their village or within their community. So they are the key people. We always invested in them, educating in them in the rights, or helping them to understand the issues. So they are actually the people who stand in between us and the people, between the organization and the community. They are a kind of a people who always helped us to do the real work. So with this COVID challenge, I think we need to more depend on the change agents, more develop, more strengthen this change agent concept. So, and involving the police, local, identifying the local government officials, maybe in any sector, who are interested in these issues. I think these days that would really help. Any of the issues, no matter with the children or women, any government sector people who are interested. So that is one of the thing, again, like we are thinking these days, like trying to find people. As I said, in the change agents, we thought like we have to introduce some, especially from the police side, some people who are interested in these solving these issues or helping us. We have to connect them directly to the change agents. As some of the child abuse or women domestic violence things, when we as an NGO go and directly involve in that, it is highly difficult in the rural areas to next time go back to the same village. So with the change agents, I think that would be a great working system. Yeah, and some of the things which I would just like to add on to what Mani sir has presented. Like we need some expertise who can help us with the law. That is one thing, like we have to more emphasize in days to come, especially in the rural areas. These days, things are different as more added problems are coming for children and women. And also one of the point which self-defense mechanism, we have to seriously think about self-defense even in the rural areas. Rural areas we never thought, but seeing these abuse and domestic violence rates increasing in rural areas, I think this is one of the things which we should make mandatory within our projects. Yeah, this is a brief sharing from my end. Chris, once again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Suresh, for those practical questions that all of us are battling and struggling with. Thank you for voicing them out again, so that all of us can actually think through and see what we can do. Thank you so much once again for those thoughts. I've noticed Moses Kagita on the call. Sir, are you ready to make the presentation?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the time that I got.
We can't. Can you turn on your video? We can't see you.
Actually, I'm driving, madam.
Oh.
So I can have this call, not a problem.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, madam. So, sorry for the late, but I didn't get the time to hear what my other participants said. But it is really, in the villages, we can divide the people by before COVID and after COVID, because the situation in the villages are very bad. Because the child abuse and especially the child labor is going to take place much more, because they're having the very toughest time. Especially the women are facing lot of tough time because they don't have any work. So there are daily laborers who can work and gain their food. So that is the one thing, that if we can have their self-employment for the families, so they can stand by themselves. So that will help them in the village especially. Can you hear me, madam?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so, and not only that, and there are other people also who are trying to take advantage of the situation by this corona season, this time. They are trying to gain the advantage, so that they can even rob the people. Robbing means they can rob their labor work. They can. They are trying to do anything for them to get benefit of themselves instead of the women and the children. So we can have a awareness classes for them so that they can be careful of this. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
So that is my thoughts on the children, especially, and the schools is going to, the education also will be, the schools are opening very late. They announced that it will be in August 3rd. So by that time, the families are trying to utilize the children for the labor work, especially the girls. So even the boys, they can say to their parents that they don't want to work, but the girls, they cannot answer it. So they're having a difficult time. So they are going to, even in the crop season, the Kharif is going to start from next month in the coastal areas of Andhra Pradesh. So they will utilize the girls for the labor work, the farming work, for the harvest. So it will be very difficult for the girls, especially. So we should think of specially doing something for the girls, the women, and the children. That's my thoughts, ma'am. And especially bringing the awareness to the families in the villages will impact more. Because if they have the awareness on what the situation is, and uh, they can be particular of what they are facing. Until unless we can't to explain to the situation to them, so they are not knowing what is the seriousness of the situation outside.
Yeah,
So that's
sure.
my thoughts. And even the literature percentage is going to fall down because families are broken and they are financially also broken. So they may not, the parents may not be able to send to the school. So even I wonder even the literature percent also is going to fall down in the schools. There will be a lot of backdrop school children also in the villages, especially from the girls.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you so much, sir, for those questions and for thoughts for us to think about. Now, may I request Rabbi Jaikaran, Chairman of Peacemakers, to make the presentation.
Hello.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yes, you. Yeah, you're very
Is there
feeble,
a,
but yeah, audible.
okay. Is there a disturbance in the background?
Yeah,
Is it manageable?
I think so.
Okay. If that is manageable, I would like to go ahead now. Otherwise, maybe you can give me some more time. So I'll wait until the rain subsides here, and then I can take.
I think that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Just give me a second.
You may have to sit opposite to the light.
I can't do that right now.
Okay, sure.
I'll go ahead with this. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a interesting topic. I would rather say it is a relevant topic. Appreciate efforts of Red Rope and Chrysolite for hosting this webinar. And I'm sure for a long time NGOs and many government departments have really been working for gender rights and child rights. And I think this time when the violence you know, is quite increased during the lockdown. I'm sure this might be also a time where we can push for a comprehensive policy change at both the state and the national levels. And I represent currently, I work with an organization called Peacemakers, and we work on issues of violence and conflict, and we are working with prisoners, and we work with women prisoners. So this is just a brief background. So the problem I see is at a couple of levels. One is there is no uniform definition for violence. I believe which is very, very urgent, that we need to gather, you know, and come to some kind of variations and some kind of, you know, definitions of violence. Because it becomes, apparently it is so kind of what men think is violent, you know, the women think it is terrible, it is horrible. And then what women or children think as violence, men think it is not at all. So there seems to be a kind of a different way of understanding what violence is, what violence is not. And so that is the reason I would say that the problem here is that violence itself is not defined properly, and we need to work on that. And particularly because media as usual is not focusing on this reality of violence. In the sense, what they do is basically through the movies and serials, they portray women as inferior, subservient, and objects of gratification, and they glorify men and patriarchy, and they portray that violence, if it is used by men, it is great and it is wonderful. So I think that is why we need to come to a common, we need to have a lot of discussions, and we need to arrive at some kind of common definition of violence. Number two, I problematize here is that the perpetrators get away with abetting violence. The perpetrators, they commit violence and then they are free. Nobody is taking them to account. Nobody is able to kind of work with the perpetrators, either because no one is willing or no one is empowered to demand accountability. So we do have legislations, we do have mechanisms, but still the perpetrators of violence are at large. One second.
Lydia, have we lost Rabbi?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think he's
So-
back.
Sorry, I just have to restart my computer. So I'm back.
Sure.
So coming back to the presentation, I was talking about the perpetrators that they get away. And so therefore, the victims, whether it is women and children, have no access to help. And predominantly, everyone is okay with violence. They believe that violence, it is part of the tradition, and it is a personal problem between the husband and the wife, and and children is supposed to be taken care by the parents. Nobody else is supposed to intervene. So rather, it is suggested that the victim has to adjust sometimes, and rather it is the victim that provoked the perpetrator to be violent. And so do not provoke your perpetrator. Be submissive, be obedient, which means put up with everything, do not complain, serve me and my needs, wants and desires. So that's a kind of a mindset that we are having predominantly around us. So naturally the victims have no way to seek help, protection or redressal, which forces the victims to tolerate violence, endure violence, live in fear of violence, and finally give in to minor violence in the belief of safeguarding from major violence. And so this is the way I looked at it. So what do we do? Like, I have few statistics. I thought already it has been shared. I don't need to go there. And like, there are numerous, for example, now pregnancies and contraceptives and non-consensual sex, if this is what we can term it for family relations in our country. Like many other countries, men decide and override the decision to use or not to use contraceptives. And women neither have equal decision-making role or power to decide about pregnancy, and women cannot have a say. And so there are, however, numerous cases where women are subversive and acquire the know-how of how to prevent pregnancy, although they can't prevent STDs and things like that. So those things we need to explore. And I would want to talk about education plus access to resources that will reiterate that men and women are equal and deserve respect and dignity. Women is as important as it is being provided for girls, women, as far as sexuality, sex education, gender rights is concerned. And now, coming to this COVID situation now, I've heard people saying something like this: restricted movement, not allowed to meet neighbors or go out. That is a general condition. And a woman says that she needs to be at home all the time, and she would wait for the time for her husband and children to go to work and to school, so that she can have some free time or some time for herself. And the complaint and the grievance that she has now is, with COVID-19, with the lockdown, I have no time for myself. I am always expected to be at service. And there is somebody saying like this: maid came home to help. Now with COVID-19, I am the maid. I am also mother. I am also caretaker of children and a wife to fulfill my husband's sexual urges. I must comply, or else more verbal abuse, more physical abuse. Enough. Emotionally, I am done. I don't know whether I will survive. So this is some of the kind of a heart cry of women. So coming to violence against children, I thought about this. Even exposure to domestic violence in terms of how mother, sister, siblings are subjected to violence, and in terms of exposure to pornography, where adults are children watching at home or community setting, it's age inappropriate movies or media programs that are amounts of pornographic material. And the third category for children is that subjected to violence themselves. And so I'm looking at in terms of a mechanism for prevention. The first thing I would say is education for men, to bring about mindset change in the society. And that certainly will include parenting or parenting skills training for fathers and also mothers, where they will be trained on child development and non-violent discipline and problem-solving skills. So this would be one thing, because mostly the education and awareness is focused on women and children. I would want the focus to go on boys and men also. I'm not suggesting that we need to forget the women. And number two, I would say, is in terms of empowering women and children. As Suresh Daniel was saying, there's a digital poverty. I think somehow access to information, access to help, access to self-protection aids, and so this have to be accessible. So access needs to be worked on. So empowering women is not only by lecturing to them or giving them some skills, but actually giving them access to power, access to decision makers, access to authorities who are empowered to protect them. And the third one I would say is in terms of infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I mean to say when a woman or child is subjected to violence, they don't have any place to go. So they need say a temporary shelter or a mental health and trauma care center, including alternative to live away from the perpetrators. So currently what is happening is, when a child or a woman is subjected to violence, they have nowhere to go, but they have to come to violence and stay. So we need to have alternative places, safe places, where people or victims of violence can go. I think I will stop here now, because I'm also aware of the time, and I think it's also noisy. So I will just stop right now here. I will take some questions if there is any. Otherwise, may the next presenter continue.
Sure, Rabbi. Thank you. Thank you for those backdrop psychology that happens during this violence. So any of the participants, partners, do you have any questions for Rabbi? I hope he was audible to all of us. I'm assuming none of us have questions. So thank you so much, Rabbi, for sharing with us and for making it through, even in spite of this heavy storm behind you. So thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have been missing on a few presenters. Some of them have some issues with their phone, some of them have issues with the internet and all of that. So they are not able to make presentation. But if any of you who didn't have a chance to voice out, but if you have any comments or if you have any thoughts to share with us, the floor is open for you.
Chrysolite,
Yes, sir.
Rennie here.
Yeah.
We have different discussions on the protection of women and children. So it is important that we document some of these important aspects and share it with the concerned authorities so that our discussions will have a wider meaning rather than learning alone. Of course, learning and sharing is very important in a time like this, but at the same time, some of the learnings inside we may take it forward. One or two concerns which I have, basically, for example, in Kerala, the examination has started. Children may go for online learning. It is again very important that children should go for online learning, but at the same time, the issue of the poorest children, the most vulnerable children like the tribals, the Dalits, the Adivas, those children without internet and mobile, the education of children is going to be affected, and we are actually leaving behind more children and more women in the days to come. So it is like a train having bogies, women, children, but the train is still going, but the bogies are left out. So that is happening in this scenario. So the facility for all children to have education may be very important for us. But one or two more concerns I have is that, like the question of I'm happy that all the presenters have given very good presentations and the importance of trafficking. So I want to comment on that. As for example, in Kerala, government has a government order by the Higher Education Department to start anti-human trafficking clubs in colleges. That is something which we should take forward in Andhra Pradesh also, either by the Home Department or by the Education Department, a government order. We have already an example to share, like Kerala government order is there. So something like that in the days to come, we should take forward so that it has a legal sanctity of anti-human trafficking clubs. And it would be nice if you also share, as you have a task to start 50 anti-human trafficking clubs in colleges. Maybe you can share a little about your idea also. So I think that is very important. But then in our context, many of them are NGOs. So it is not only colleges. There is something called Panchayat against human trafficking. Panchayat against human trafficking. So the Panchayat committees are oriented on that, and there is a subcommittee on that. So the Panchayat level, so that when it comes to trafficking, you know that there is a destination as well as the source. So Panchayat against trafficking is something very important in this context. Another idea I want to share is many of our NGOs are working on the issue of child labor. But if you look at it very, very closely, I have worked with that issue for many years in my life. If you look at it closely, you will come to see that 90% of the child laborers are actually child trafficking, because it is always with an agent. There is an element of money. It's for exploitation. No child is coming happily to do some labor. You know, it is all stolen childhood. It is all left out children. The children are losing their childhood, and the children are forced to do the child labor. So even if their permission is there or they are doing it with their consent, it is immaterial because they are children. So I would say 90% of the child labor in this country is actually trafficked children. Another aspect is the mafia for begging mafia, in which all the junctions we have children begging. That is going to increase with the income of the family is coming down. Low income or no income, begging and child labor and bonded child labor are going to increase in the days to come. So these are some issues and concerns. So I would suggest the idea of anti-human trafficking clubs in colleges and Panchayat against human trafficking, and also some initiatives, not immediately but in the days to come, to to curb the issue of begging and to look at child labor from the lens of child bonded labor. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Those are the three, I think, very crucial aspects that all of us have to be very mindful of. As you pointed out, Red Rope is planning to start 50 anti-human trafficking clubs all across Andhra. So if any of you are interested to know more about what is this anti-human trafficking club, how can we equip colleges or students, please get in touch with us, and we are more than happy to partner or to help you facilitate this program in your locality. As sir also pointed, that if we can also equip panchayats at each village or panchayat or municipal level, if we can empower those each communities to raise up and to be aware of how trafficking works, in that way we can actually enable people to stop selling their children or stop selling their women, consciously or unconsciously, knowingly, unknowingly. At least we are doing the first prevention. So this is another beautiful idea that we can explore. This way, we can create awareness not only about trafficking, but also about begging, also about abuse, also other related violence activities also can be covered. So this is one idea that all of us can actually think about and see how we can bring this into the practical routes and streets of India. Anybody else has any other points or thoughts to share? Gordon from Gujarat, do you want to share something with us? You're on mute. Should I unmute you?
Gujarat condition is main cities Ahmedabad, Surat, Rajkot. Village level is not a COVID-19. COVID-19 पोजीशन में अभी हेलो
Go ahead, we can hear you.
हाँ अभी जो गुजरात में चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग की बात करें तो कुछ ऐसा नहीं है, क्योंकि कोविड-19 जो लॉकडाउन चल रहा है उसकी वजह से कोई बाहर बच्चे नहीं निकलते, या सभी जगह पुलिस जा रही है, तो ये सब अभी कम हो गया है यहाँ पर। और जो विलेज है उसमें तो ग्रीन जोन में है, वो सब लॉकडाउन ऐसे सुबह से 7 बजे से 4 बजे तक रहता है, उसमें बच्चे और बूढ़ों को बाहर नहीं निकलना है, दूसरे लोग जा सकते हैं। लेकिन जो बड़े शहर है अहमदाबाद, सूरत, राजकोट, उसमें कंडीशन बहुत बुरी है अभी, और कोई एरिया को रेड जोन दे दिया है। ऐसी हालत है अभी यहाँ पर।
वो कंडीशन बुरी है बच्चे और वुमेन का या कोविड-19 का?
कोविड-19 का। बच्चे
या
और
बट हम बच्चे और women के बात कर रहे हैं ना जो
हाँ 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 हाँ, वो तो मैंने बताया अभी,
Yeah.
क्योंकि बच्चे और जो वुमेन है उसको तो अभी घर पे ही रहते हैं। हमने काउंसलिंग किया था, लेकिन वो लोग तो कि हम तो घर पे रहते ही थे। बच्चों को अच्छा नहीं लगता, उसको बाहर घूमना फिरना अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन अभी वाला जो है, चाइल्ड लेबर वाला जो है, वो कोई कोई नहीं है अभी
हाँ,
वजह से।
अभी शायद नहीं होगा, मगर आपको ये देखना है कि ये लॉकडाउन खत्म होने के बाद कैसे होगा। ये लॉकडाउन होने के बाद इंक्रीज होने का चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा है, तो आपको उसके लिए प्रोएक्टिवली आप कुछ करेंगे तो थोड़ा हेल्प होगा, जैसे हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे. Okay, for those of you who don't understand Hindi, I would like to translate what Gordon has mentioned. So he was mentioning that because of COVID-19 and Gujarat, especially Gujarat, because of the cases that are happening in Gujarat, children and women are highly restricted in visiting out or roaming around. Hence, he says that there have been no increase of trafficking cases. There is a little control on trafficking as of now. He also mentions that in green zone, the children and the elderly people are highly restricted in going out. Hence, even in red zone or green zone areas, the issues of trafficking are under control. But in places like Ahmedabad, Rajkot, like which are like considerably bigger cities in Gujarat, there are chances of it to go a little more higher than expected. So that's what they are trying to work and counsel women and children at this moment. Thank you so much for sharing those.
Thank you.
Crystal,
yes.
Can I just get to say something?
Yeah, sure.
What I had in my mind was in terms of most of us are male members here who have been participating, except 1 or 2, 3 women here. My concern is in terms of how is it different now that when men are, I'm addressing this to our fellow men here, how is it different at homes now that with lockdown? What is different in the gender relations between us men and the women at home? If we could just honestly have some kind of a conversation on that and see in terms of, how are we dealing with this? I'm sure there is some kind of a gender relations in our own homes and in our family. And how has it been? Like I was just giving a small story about a woman saying that they were waiting for the kids and the husbands to go so that they could have some time, because they are always preoccupied with what each one needs at home. And with COVID-19, the men and the kids are not going out anymore. And so here there is definitely a shift, and then so it does kind of impact women, and she says that she's expected to be at service all the time. And so how are we men in our own homes, how are we trying to kind of respond to that kind of a situation? There could be any sharing of experience.
Anybody wants to share?
Yeah. There's a retired IAS officer in my neighborhood, and they were having about 2 or 3 servants in their house. So he was a very high-ranking officer in Bangalore. He was SM Krishna's right-hand man, but he was washing vessels. Okay. Whereas, he was washing vessels, and he was very happy to help his wife, and he wouldn't let even after it was relaxed, I think he wouldn't let the servant come inside. He said, no, I'll wash. and her two daughters were sleeping, swabbing, and like. But in another scenario, yeah, I got a call from this friend of mine. She's a yeah, doctor, anesthetist, and all that. And her husband says, I mean, her husband volunteered to cook for the day, and she was literally crying. She said, I have enough of, you know. And then she asked him, it was supposed to be a fun event. And so he told her, we'll have fun eating it. She was, he was troubling her so much. What is this? Where is this? And things like that. And that is in two educated middle class families. Now, coming to my servant maid, the lockdown was relaxed on May 4th. On May 3rd, May 2nd, she rings me up and she says, Amma, I'll come May 3rd. I said, no, you come on May 4th. No, Amma, if I stay for one more day, I'll have a nervous breakdown. I'll just go mad. So, this is the kind of different scenarios, like, yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
But I think you should have, Chrysolite with, I don't know how many men will engage in this kind of debate, but if our middle class men can change, I mean, that will be the answer, I think.
I think it's rightly said. I think the change has to happen one man after the other. I think because I think the men are somehow thinking that we do not have a role at home, whether it is taking care of the children's education or just watching over their homeworks, or generally men have just outsourced it to the women. I mean, it's supposed to be the women's job. I think this COVID now is now creating a lot of tension, because there is a lot more kind of a confrontation. Because earlier you wake up in the morning and then you have your breakfast or not, you take your thing and you leave. But then now you just laze around and then be around and do nothing. And or you just get on to webinars, you just get on to calls, you just get on to various things that really kind of makes you really a man. Otherwise, so somehow I think we need to kind of rethink about mutual accountability among men. We need to rethink about, what is our contribution to this inequality that is prevailing in our society, that the women and children are looked down upon, and the children, the boys just grow up thinking that they are really great, and they don't have to do anything except just get angry and throw things around and shout and get anything they want and things like that. I think somehow fundamentally, I think we need a change in our culture in terms of how we look at ourselves and our fellow women. So I think I don't know what other men on the call need to say about it, but I think I'm sharing from my own. It's a concern. It's really a concern that I'm really struggling in terms of how do I get to really kind of understand and to respect and to kind of treat my women at home with dignity and kind of a thing in a day-to-day lives. Now that I cannot just escape saying I'm just out or have work or office and things like that. Any men to respond?
Rabbi, this is Suresh. Thank you so much for discussing this thing, especially when we talk about domestic violence, and if we don't talk about men taking care of a family, I think it is incomplete. So I do agree with you that we need definitely some kind of awareness and also models. As you said, we need some models. Like after COVID, things are totally different. So even for people who are working from home, we face challenge, especially me and my wife. We both work from home, and how to share exactly what you said is really true. One line which really touched me: before morning we get up, make career and go, and we come back in the evening. But now having no work and also staying in home and taking care of household work is a challenge, and we need a real some kind of a discussion, especially maybe for this. And I really appreciate your again and again stressing on this point and saying that we need to think about it. It is a real concern. Yes, it is a real concern to any family,
I really appreciate you, Suresh, for responding to that. I think men, we have a larger role which we have abdicated in bringing about, a safety for our own women and for our own children. I think somehow we have kind of been quiet spectators or just not voicing out. So I think I really am so encouraged to hear you say these things. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
I think while all of you are discussing, I just have this random idea. If we should host a webinar on role of men during COVID-19, at least I'm sure those men that need this enlightenment may not be a part of it, but at least we can discuss and upload this recording over social media. At least that way it can reach out to some men out there who needs to elaborate their thinking. So I think most of the participants, are done sharing with whatever they have, and we also have seen had a good discussion so far. So thank you so much for everyone for joining, for discussing, for sharing your thoughts and presenting your views on this issue on how we can empower women and children to ensure that we create a better society for all of us at large. So all these points that we discussed today will be documented, and I'm going to share this with Meera, who in return will help us share these with the respective authorities in Andhra and see how we can action or how we can collaborate either with the government or with one another in ensuring that we overcome these issues, we face these issues, and we are prepared in fighting these issues, especially violence against women and children. Thank you so much once again. All of you have a good evening.
Priscilla, I just wanted to ask you if you would make this recording available to us.
Yes, I'm going to upload it on Facebook. However, I'll share it with you as well.
Okay, that'll be good. And if I could have Suresh's contact, or would you be sharing the